We walked under the trees and talked, and then fell silent. We were listening deeply to the quietness. In a strict sense, the woods are never still. There is tremendous activity always in process, but nature makes no strident noises regardless of the vastness of its operation. Nature's sounds are quiet, harmonious. On this beautiful afternoon, nature was laying its hand of healing quietness upon us, and we could actually feel the tension being drawn off. Just as we were falling under the spell, the faint sounds of what passes for music came to us. It was nervous, high-strung music of the jitterbug variety. Presently through the woods came 3 young people, 2 young women and a young man, and the latter was lugging a portable radio. They were 3 youngsty people out for a walk in the woods, and tragically enough were bringing their noise along with them. They were nice young folk too, for they stopped, and we had a pleasant talk with them. It occurred to me to ask them to turn that thing off and listen to the music of the woods, but I didn't feel it was my business to instruct them, and finally they went on their way. We commented on the loss they were incurring, that they could pass through this peacefulness, and not give ear to the music, that is as old as the world, harmony and melody the like of which man has never equalled. The song of the wind through the trees, the sweet notes of birds singing their hearts out, the whole background of the music of the spheres. This is still to be found in America, in our woods and great plains, in our valleys, in our mountain majesties, and where the ocean foams on soft shores of sand. We should avail ourselves of its healing. Remember the words of Jesus, "Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place, and rest awhile." Mr. 631, even as I write these words, and give you this good advice, I recall instances where it has been necessary to remind myself to practice the same truth, which emphasizes that we must everlastingly discipline ourselves to quietness, if we expect its benefits in our lives. One autumn day Mrs. Beadle and I took a trip into Massachusetts, to see our son John at Deerfield Academy. We told him we would arrive at 11 a.m., and we pride ourselves on the good old American custom of promptness. Therefore, being a bit behind schedule, we were driving at breakneck speed through the autumnal landscape. My wife said, "Norman, did you see that radiant hillside?" "What hillside?" I asked. "It just went by on the other side," she explained. "Look at that beautiful tree." "What tree?" I was already a mile past it. "This is one of the most glorious days I have ever seen," my wife said. "How could you possibly imagine such amazing colors as these New England hillsides in October? In fact," she said, "it makes me happy inside." That remark of hers so impressed me, that I stopped the car, and went back a quarter of a mile to a lake backed by towering hills dressed in autumn colors. We sat and looked and meditated. God with his genius and skill had painted that scene in the varied colors which he alone can mix. In the still waters of the lake lay a reflected vision of his glory, for the hillside was unforgettably pictured in that mirror-like bond. For quite a while we sat without a word until finally my wife broke the silence by the only appropriate statement that one could make: "He leadeth me beside the still waters." PS 23:2. We arrived at Deerfield at 11, but we were not tired. In fact, we were deeply refreshed. To help reduce this tension which seems to dominate our people everywhere, you can start by reducing your own pace. To do that you will need to slow down, quiet down. Do not fume. Do not fret. Practice being peaceful. Practice the peace of God which passeth all understanding. PHP 4:7. Then note the quiet power sense that dwells up within you. A friend of mine who was compelled to take an enforced rest as a result of pressure wrote me, "Many lessons have been learned during this enforced retreat. Now I know better than before that in the quiet we become aware of his presence. Life can get muddled, but muddied water, says Lao Tzu, let's stand, will become clear." Quote, a physician gave some rather whimsical advice to a patient, an aggressive, go-getter type of businessman. Excitedly he told the doctor what an enormous amount of work he had to do, and that he had to get it done right away quick or else. "I take my briefcase home every night, and it is packed with work," he said with nervous inflection. "Why do you take work home with you at night?" the doctor asked quietly. "I have to get it done," he fumed. "Cannot someone else do it, or help you with it?" asked the doctor. "No," the man snapped. "I am the only one who can do it. It must be done just right, and I alone can do it as it must be done, and it has to be done quickly. Everything depends upon me. If I write you a prescription, will you follow it?" asked the doctor. This, believe it or not, was the prescription. His patient was to take off 2 hours every working day, and go for a long walk. Then he was to take off a half day a week, and spend that half day in a cemetery. In astonishment the patient demanded, "Why should I spend a half day in a cemetery?" "Because," answered the doctor, "I want you to wander around, and look at the gravestones of men who are there permanently. I want you to meditate on the fact that many of them are there, because they thought even as you do, that the whole world rested on their shoulders. Meditate on the solemn fact that when you get there permanently the world will go on just the same, and, as important as you are, others will be able to do the work you are now doing. Suggest that you sit on one of those tombstones and repeat this statement. 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night. Left parenthesis PS 90:4. The patient got the idea. He slowed his pace. He learned to delegate authority. He achieved a proper sense of his own importance. He stopped fuming and fretting. He got peaceful. And, it might be added, he does better work. He is developing a more competent organization, and he admits that his business is in better condition. A prominent manufacturer was afflicted with tension. In fact, he was in a very high-strung frame of mind. As he himself described it, he leapt out of bed every morning, and immediately got himself into high gear. He was in such a rush and dither that he made his breakfast on soft-boiled eggs, because they slid down fast. Quote, this hectic pace left him tagged and worn at about midday. He sank into bed every night exhausted. It so happens that his home is situated in a grove of trees. Very early one morning, unable to sleep, he arose and sat by the window. He became interested in watching a bird emerge from his night's sleep. He noticed that a bird sleeps with his head under his wing, the feathers pulled all around himself. When he awakened, he pulled his bill out from under his feathers, took a sleepy look around, stretched one leg to its full length, meanwhile stretching the wing over the leg until it spread out like a fan. He pulled the leg and wing back, and then repeated the same process with the other leg and wing, whereupon he put his head down in his feathers again for a delicious little cat nap, only in this case a bird nap. Then the head came out again. This time the bird looked around eagerly, threw his head back, gave his wings and legs 2 more big stretches. Then he sent up a song, a thrilling melodic song of praise to the day, wherewith he hopped down off the limb, got himself a drink of cold water, and started looking for food. The high-strung friend said to himself, if that's the way the birds get up, sort of slow and easy like, why won't it be a good method for me to start the day that way? He actually went through the same performance, even to singing it, and noticed that the song was an especially beneficial factor, that it was a releasing mechanism. I can't sing, he chuckled, but I practiced sitting quietly in a chair and singing it. Mostly I sang hymns and happy songs. Imagine me singing, but I did. My wife thought I was bereft of my senses. The only thing I had on the bird was that I did a little praying too. Then, like the bird, I felt like some food, and I wanted a good breakfast, bacon and eggs. And I took my time eating it. After that I went to work in a released frame of mind. It surely did start me off for the day minus the tension, and it helped me go through the day in a peaceful and relaxed manner. A former member of a championship university crew told me that their shrewd crew coach often reminded them, to win this or any race, row slowly. He pointed out that rapid rowing tends to break the stroke, and when the stroke is broken it is with the greatest difficulty that a crew recovers the rhythm necessary to win. Meanwhile other crews pass the disorganized group. It is indeed wiser advice to go fast, row slowly. In order to row slowly, or to work slowly, and maintain the steady pace that wins, the victim of high tempo will do well to get the coordinating peace of God into his mind, his soul, and, it might be added, into his nerves and muscles also. Have you ever considered the importance of having the peace of God in your muscles, in your joints? Perhaps your joints will not pain so much when they have the peace of God in them. Your muscles will work with correlation when the peace of God who created them governs their action. Speak to your muscles every day, and to your joints, and to your nerves, saying, fret not thyself. PS 37:1, relax on a couch or bed, think of each important muscle from head to feet, and say to each, the peace of God is touching you. Then practice feeling that peace throughout your entire body. In due course your muscles and joints will take heed. Slow down, or whatever you really want will be there when you get there, if you work toward it without stress, without pressing. If, proceeding under God's guidance, and in his smooth and unhurried tempo, it is not there, then it was not supposed to be there. If you miss it, perhaps you should have missed it. So definitely seek to develop a normal, natural, God-ordered pace. Practice and preserve mental quiet. Learn the art of letting go all nervous excitement. To do this, stop at intervals and affirm, I now relinquish nervous excitement, it is flowing from me. I am at peace. Do not fume. Do not fret. Practice being peaceful. To attain this sufficient state of living, I recommend the practice of thinking peaceful thoughts. Every day we perform a series of acts designed to care for the body properly. We bath, brush the teeth, take exercise. In similar fashion we should give time and planned effort to keeping the mind in a healthy state. One way to do this is to sit quietly and pass a series of peaceful thoughts through the mind. For example, pass through the thoughts the memory of a lofty mountain, a misty valley, a sun-speckled trout stream, silver moonlight on water. At least once in every 24 hours, preferably in the busiest part of the day, deliberately stop whatever you are doing for 10 or 15 minutes and practice serenity. There are times when it is essential resolutely to check our headlong pace, and it must be emphasized that the only way to stop is to stop. I went to a certain city on a lecture date, and was met at the train by a committee. I was rushed to a bookstore, where I had an autographing party, and then to another bookstore, where another autographing party was held.